Hello, welcome to my channel. Due to my last video, I wanted to share this with you and look into this. It says the weapons men and women most often use to kill. This was published May 7th, 2015, and you can see where it was done by. It says, even if I didn't care at all about the Game of Thrones, and we can pretend I don't, I'm still intrigued by the suggestion that poison is a woman's weapon. Since I have access to the best data available on American murders, I could not resist delving into the question. The Federal Bureau of Investigation Supplemental Homicide Report data from 1999 through 2012, the latest available, is imperfect, but the best source for the data on 1,900 and 5,578 murder cases. Anyway, it says the first thing to know is that men commit so many more murders than women, 90% of them, that every kind of weapon is used much more by the guys. But we still review the weapon preferences of men and women separately. Men use guns 2/3 of the time. Women use guns way less than half the time, although it still remains the most popular weapon among women. After guns, women are likely to use a knife to beat their victims to death or to strike them with a blunt object. After guns, poison is the sixth most common way for women to kill. Still, because men use guns for so much of their killing and because women use guns much less frequently, it turns out that women tend to use every other weapon more than men. And so, yes, poison is more popular among women killers than it is among men. Still, poison is not a very popular weapon. It is used in just under 1/2 of 1% of murder. That's using a definition of poisoning that includes standard poisons and also murdering with a poison of use of narcotics or sleeping pills. It does not include poisonous gas, which the FBI lumps under asphyxiation. Even with that tiny share, the poison was still used in 901 murder cases listed in the data. The vast majority of cases involve one killer and one victim, and they knew each other well since a few cases involve multiple killers or victims. There are a total of 936 deceased and 1,108 offenders. That's a big enough group to draw some fair conclusions about who uses it and who is killed. Women are seven times as likely as men to choose poison as their murder weapon. As I said before, there are 9 male killers for every 1 woman killer. So in raw numbers, more men kill with poison than women do. But among men murderers, poison is used in just over 1/3 of 1% of the killings, but for women it is used in more than 2.5% of the killings. You can see a more nuanced version of weapon choices if you remove all the gun murders by men and women posing the question, other than guns, which weapons are used by men and which are used by women? That provides a more mixed picture. Then men are more likely to use guns and women are more inclined to use everything else. Without guns, men have a greater preference than women for beating, blunt objects, and strangling. Women are more prone to kill with stabbing, asphyxiation, poison, fire, drowning, explosives, and defenestration. In almost all the cases, the differences in preference between the genders are very small, a couple percentage points, such as women stabbing 39% of the time while men stab 37% of the time, and men beating people to death 21% of the time while women do it 19% of the time. Poisoning stands out though. With all the guns removed, women are almost 4 times as likely as men to use poison. It is used just over 1% of the killings by men and just over 4% of the killings by women. The only other weapon with a bigger difference is drowning, used 7 times as much by women, but used less than 1/3 as often as poisoning, only 311 killers. In the final analysis, men kill with poison more often, but it is a weapon of choice by women murderers much more than men, even if the male for guns is removed. Yes, poison is a woman's weapon. Further than that, it is a weapon of white people, and when you break out both the killer's race and sex, you see white women are most likely to be using poison when they kill. The FBI data does not detail what poisons are used, but it also shows that older killers are more likely than younger ones to use poison. Killers over 30 are more than twice as likely as younger killers to resort to poison. Poisoning victims falls into a very different age pattern than killers. Poison is clearly used to kill the youngest and oldest victims more often than others. People in the age groups that suffer the most homicides, young adults, are less likely to be killed with poison. The relationship between victims and their killers also reflects that tendency to use poison to kill young people. Daughters are the most common female relatives, and sons are the most common male relatives murdered with poison. Poison is much more likely to be used in killings in which the murderer knows the victims, rather than between strangers, and the gender pattern remains. Poison is used in more than 2% of husband killings, but it is used in just over 1/2 of 1% of wife killings. Want to explore the data yourself? Here's an extract from the FBI supplemental homicide reports of killings with poison, including narcotics and sleeping pills used to kill. Let's see where it takes us. Oh, it's a download. Okay. And then there is this thing. It says, does she kill like he kills? And this is a comparison that you can find online. And an abstract says the homicide committed by women make up between 5 and 15% of the total number of homicides recorded in the world. Studies based on the gender of the perpetrator have been uncommon due to the low level of prevalence of female homicide offenders, but this tendency is currently undergoing a change. Nonetheless, in general, there is still limited knowledge of the role of women in serious crime, which makes the task of criminal policy more difficult. Therefore, the present investigation seeks to perform a comparative analysis of the homicides committed by women with those committed by men. The cases in this sample correspond to homicides solved in Spain by the Civil Guard between the years 2013 and 2018. The findings of the study show that homicides by women have distinctive characteristics, with 3 out of 4 taking place in the family environment, and these being dominated by cases of filicide. The victims are underage males with some type of vulnerability and a mental disorder. The female perpetrators tend to have a partner and live with somebody and have a mental disorder and do not present a prior criminal record. With regard to the crime, homicides perpetrated by women take place in the afternoon without witnesses and inside residences. When it comes to criminal behaviors, they use weapons of opportunity. Above all, asphyxiating methods, they alter the scene and do not flee from the scene of the crime. The study of criminal behavior shows that the majority of crimes, especially violent ones, are committed by men. In Spain, the average crime rate of men between the years 2010 and 2018 was 5 times higher than that of women. And in the case of homicides, the difference was almost 7 times greater. Despite the differences reflected by these figures, a constant rise in the number of women convicted of violent crimes has been registered throughout the last 20 years. But investigations on homicides have not produced conclusive results, seeing as the study it says an increase in homicides committed by women between the years 1995 and 2004, and it talks about different studies. But it also talks about how men are more likely to use a gun and commit a crime outside, where women commit the crime inside, and the women don't flee the crime. So, that's what I find interesting. Anyway, it says there are very few investigations that analyze the homicides committed by a woman outside of the family setting, and this report is worth highlighting. The study that analyzed 124 cases of female murders in Sweden, in which revealed that 24% of the cases they killed people outside of the family environment, in which the authors proposed a typology of homicides committed by women based on the study. Anyway, One of the main conclusions drawn by the studies that compare homicides committed by women and men is that women primarily kill family members, whilst men tend to kill acquaintances and strangers. With regard to the gender of the victims, the majority of studies show that women, just as much as men, predominantly victimize the latter. Did find that women mainly kill men and men mainly kill women. The age of the victims has also been the subject of investigation, and although there seems to be a consensus on the fact that victims of a young age tend to be associated with women mainly due to the involvement of the latter in cases of filicide, it found that the victims of women are older than those of male murders, although other studies did not find significant differences in the ages of the victims. Okay, I want to see if I can't find that where it says that men kill outside. Okay. Cannot find it. There it is. As far as characteristics of the incident, the literature finds that women primarily carry out the homicides in indoor settings, especially in homes, whilst those committed by men take place in outdoor settings and other public places. Okay, so then I'm looking at this, and this woman who had her children for a one-day visit, and she was young, like in her 20s. And it says that her 5-year-old son and her 7-year-old daughter were found murdered. Each had been shot twice in the head while lying on a coat in a small clearing in McIver Park near the city of Estacada. They were last seen leaving with their mother for a one-day visit from her ex-husband's house. And she's never been found. But it says that they seem to think that she shot them each in the back of the head twice with a gun outdoors. And I find that interesting since women usually would commit a crime. And they found the receipt for the gun, but they didn't find the murder weapon or anything like that. And she's never been found. And I find that interesting because women don't usually commit murders outdoors. And they don't usually flee the scene. And if she had committed suicide, it seems like they would have found her body probably in the area. Anyway, so I thought, well, since I did that last video on her, I thought I would point that out because I thought that was interesting. And feel free to leave comments and let me know what your thoughts are. And thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day. Bye-bye.